All right, welcome everyone. This is Northampton Urban Forestry Commission meeting, January 15th, 2025. Welcome to the new year. We have public comment. Oh, this meeting's being recorded, and we have public comment. Jackie. I,
Thank you. I pulled a hat out today
ah,
too, just
ah,
because my hair was a mess. Um, I wanted to tell you all that the Miyawaki Forest project is moving forward, and we've got getting a lot of support. And it's right now, our meetings are going to be on alternate Wednesday with the UFC at 5 o'clock on Zoom, not 4:30. And I will continue sending you links for anyone who wants to join us or play Miyawaki. It is fun. It's the best thing that ever happened to me in a long time. God bless the trees. I think it's a wonderful opportunity to educate the public about the importance of trees, especially trees in the water cycle with the climate change and stuff, people don't know how critically important trees are, and this is a chance to let them know. Thank you.
thank you, Jackie, for your comment and great hat. Um, there's no one else, no other folks from the public here. Sue, you have a comment?
No,
Just
no, I just thumbs up to
thumbs up.
Jackie.
Okay. All right. Okay, next on our agenda is to review and approve the minutes from 12/18/2024.
Did you send those out? I never got them.
Don't think I got him either.
That's a problem.
I
Were they not attached to the email with the agenda?
I didn't get the agenda
You sent us an email saying that, um, oh, geez.
with a
Hold
link
on.
for the meeting.
Yeah, the planning board person couldn't be here and that the title
Hold on.
was, the stuff was attached, but I don't think it was attached. And then I didn't
Hold on.
really follow up on it.
Hold on 1 second. Somebody has
David
to
and Sue, did you get it?
I did not get it, no.
draft.
I'm not seeing it either. I looked,
Oh yeah, that's
I
a
see the one
problem.
announcing that Carolyn cannot attend.
Okay, check your inbox, please.
All right.
I just forwarded you another one. I don't know. My apologies. So we have plenty of time so you can open them and review them, I think.
Got it.
Okay. All right.
Good.
I'm good.
I'm abstaining. I wasn't here.
Just gave us thumbs up.
Yeah, I've finished them.
You muted Rich. There.
Yeah, Rich Parrish, did you have a chance to okay, all right, okay. Could we entertain a motion on the floor to accept the minutes as presented?
I'll move so.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. Okay, Bonnie, could you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Rich Persilitti,
Yes.
Susan Lofthouse.
Abstain. I was absent.
Oh, thank you. Molly Hale.
Yes.
Okay. Jen Werner,
Yes.
David Lukens,
Yes.
and Richard Parrish.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So let's see, my chair report. I did speak to Carolyn briefly, and she extends her apologies for not being able to be at this meeting, but she had a pre-arranged family uh um I don't know if vacation day or something with her family, so she was not going to be here today. So she will be at our next meeting, as I indicated in the email, which will be in February, to talk about the SDO, the draft SDO. Um, there's really nothing on my tree warden side of the house other than working on the Tree City USA. Sue, thank you for the information. Jen, thank you, and Rich, thank you for before. So I will put that all together, and I'll have a report for you on that at our next meeting. I did want to thank Rich Parrish for coming to the Mass Tree Wardens and Foresters Annual Conference. It was nice to see you there. I think you were probably one of the only commissioners from any tree committee or commission from across the Commonwealth. So it was an eventful meeting. We had 521 register for the event. We ended up having, I believe, 490 people attend between the 2 days, each day. A lot of students. We had 44 students the first day and 30 students the following day. So that was a lot of students from Essex Tech and from Norfolk Aggie, which was great. I was also honored to be nominated and voted on to be president of the organization for the next year.
Oh.
So thank you. So I was vice president for the last 2 years, so I am president for this year, and then you have one more term after that. And so I will be busy, but probably a little busy, a little differently because the president does not manage the conference. So in that organization, the vice president manages the conference. So I've had 2 years of conference duties, so I will be free of that to hopefully turn my efforts on just getting our messaging out, more recruitment, trying to meet more tree wardens. In particular, actually, one of my goals is to try to meet other tree commissions because I think the tree wardens and foresters typically has been tree wardens, city foresters, commercial arborists, and utility partners, et cetera, but not a lot of interaction with volunteer tree committees. So there are a lot of volunteer tree committees throughout the Commonwealth, and I think there's a little bit of a disconnect. So I'm trying to figure out a way if Mass Tree Wardens could facilitate some sort of meeting to sort of get some of these volunteer folks together and see if there's something that we can assist them with to network basically. So, because I really think, again, as I've told many people everywhere that I go, the success to our program has been the relationships that we've built between the municipal government, the staff, the Tree Northampton organization, the commission, and the residents that actually are make everything happen. You would be surprised. There's a lot of communities that don't have what we have today. So we're very fortunate. So thank you. Um, and I really don't have anything else. There's no public shade tree hearings coming up in the future that I'm aware of. Um, and really, other than that, that's pretty much about it. Anyone have any questions? Molly?
I have two questions. Are there any other towns that have anything similar to Tree Northampton?
Yeah, Cambridge has a volunteer group. Trees for Watertown. Um, Greenfield has a very active tree committee like ours, but I don't know what their volunteer base is, and I think their tree committee sort of manages their volunteers. Um, trees for
Provincetown is the organization that gave us like bylaws and things like that to model on.
Oh.
yeah. There's Trees for Chatham, which is I think one of the oldest volunteer tree organizations in the Commonwealth. I think they started as far back as the 70s. I had a nice conversation last year with one of the founding members, so I'm trying to encourage her to write a little piece about their history because Mass Tree Wardens and Foresters they have a quarterly newsletter that goes out. It's either electronic or paper that we feature people throughout the Commonwealth in there. Plus, also we feature members. So I was hoping to get a piece written about Trees for Chatham and anyone else who might have something that might be interesting. So, what's your other question, Molly?
Um, what was it? Oh, you said there were some it was an exciting conference. I was just wondering what were some of the things that were especially interesting to you.
Well, there was a lot
Sure.
of
Hey,
interest.
Rich,
Put his hand up too.
a
Yeah.
comment from as an observer there
Yes.
that I think there was a very strong emphasis both on the choice of speakers and in the discussion there of diversity in the arborist world.
Mm.
Just uh, trying to engender support for hiring and development of women in the business, and kind of advising people this is the future and it needs to be the future, and and of course when you look around the room it's a very male dominated business, has been, but things are changing. So there was a lot of discussion, a lot of positive discussion around the future of the arborist world.
Yeah, the theme for this conference was really it was about women in their role in arboriculture, and so we had our keynote speaker was Dr. Christine Carmichael from Fair. I think it's Fair. She's a consulting arborist. Can't remember the name of her company, but she actually did her PhD work in Detroit and Holyoke in Philadelphia in regards to tree equity and trying to better understand why places like Detroit and Philadelphia and Holyoke, people that were in EJ areas had a disconnect and why their canopy cover was much lower, comparatively speaking, to areas of the city that were not EJ, and trying to develop and better understand relationships between um, people of lower economic means and understand why they don't want trees and maybe why they do not trust that the local government is going to actually care for the plant material once it's there. That was a really great talk. We had Jean Zimmerman, who came from New York. She's part of the New York State Urban Forestry Council. She gave a talk about the history of women in arboriculture. Excuse me, the untold women in history of arboriculture. So that was really interesting because she was all over the map with different women that had different roles, supporting roles and actually right upfront roles that I've never even heard of, that were botanists, that were philanthropists that actually sort of drove, um, for example, they drove the was it Rich the Audubon Society? Uh, I think there was yes, I think it was the Audubon Society. She's founded the Audubon Society. So I mean that was interesting. And then another great topic that we had was workforce development that was talked about. It was Nicole Forsyth and Leah Grigorov, who's the tree warden in Long Meadow, which you've met on Zoom before. She they both spoke about their own struggles in this industry, um, given their gender, but also talked a lot about trying recruitment of young people, and particularly women in trying in the industry, and trying to actually sort of continue to break the glass ceiling of the male dominated um, industry that it's been, like Rich mentioned, because most you look around the room and a lot of people look like me, or they're younger men, but it's been primarily male dominated for many, many years. So, uh, and I think it was, for me, it was sort of important because I sort of struggle with trying to continue to understand the difficulty that we're having in workforce development in general throughout the Commonwealth and throughout the country, I think. So there was a lot of vacant positions and jobs that are available for people that actually want to work in the arboriculture and urban forestry industry, but there just does not seem to be the depth of people to pull from or the pool to pull from, and trying to figure out why that is. And it's still sort of a mystery to me. I you know, I think it's interesting that I did reach out to the Smith vocational students and the Jim Onspot to come to the conference, but they never came, so I'm not really sure exactly what happened. But again, that's like I want to understand why some of the students that go to Smith Voc in their forestry program end up not going to Stockbridge or choose not to actually work in this industry at all and go and do something else. I don't, is it profit driven? Is it driven from finances because they can't afford a higher education? I'm not sure. So I think there's a lot of contributing factors. So I thought the workforce development piece was very important and very interesting. Still looking for answers.
I wonder if there's any way to survey people who've graduated from Smith Voc to find out, you know, to follow up with them, or if maybe has Smith Voc done any follow-up themselves?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. I know there's been surveys. There's been students that have done like PhD work or their master's work from UMass that have put out surveys to tree wardens to talk about pruning, routine pruning cycles, removals, planting, the type of budget you have in a community, but nothing specifically geared towards workforce development in this industry or for arboriculture students. Um, but I also think too is that as the workforce seems to be shrinking, or it's the lack thereof, um, things become more competitive. So, in essence, private sector, private companies that are in this industry have a lot more flexibility than the city does or a municipality does to compete with dollar for dollar to try to attract people that are talented or people that are younger that want to break into this industry. So that's another problem that I've seen a lot happen. So yes,
I don't know how long we want to keep on this topic, but it's
I'm
interesting to me. And
fine.
I was just thinking, my mind is sort of churning away and thinking, um, maybe people like you, city um, what do you call it? Tree wardens, could go to their local vocational schools and talk about like when the kids are deciding what area they want to go into. I don't know if they have people come in from the outside community to talk about their different careers, but um, maybe that would be a thing that you could do, or like even like we could try to get, your whole industry as a whole could get tree wardens to go into vocational schools and talk about why this is a good field to go into.
I'm all for doing that. I've done that in the past. I've been going to Boston regularly, to Mount Ida College for Boston Power Corps, which are people that are, age 18 to 32, I think, that are transitioning from one industry and trying to get into the green industry.
Mm.
Um, there have been other tree wardens like myself that have actually gone to UMass, excuse me, and talked to students at UMass. So I'd be more than happy to talk to folks about it. Um, I think just having qualified people working in general is a really important thing. And I think there's a lot to learn from the rest of us that have been here for a long period of time before we exit the workforce. Um, so I don't, yes, Jen.
It's a complicated thing. I don't have any easy answers, but just from a person who worked in the vocational schools, you know, it's just heavy, heavy career gendering, like way back, elementary school, middle school. And, there wasn't, in the vocational schools I worked in, I was the only female in the trades in all three of the vocational schools I worked in at the high school level. So, they don't see anybody like you. And, and I think it's also, to be honest with you, there's a lot of work to be done at the high school level on, how do I want to put this, on appropriateness around professionalism. I'll put it that way. What the girls have to put up with in those shops, what they have to listen to, what they have to see. It takes a certain, type of character to be able to kind of, and the parents too, it's misunderstood what we do and what the opportunities are out there. So a lot of particularly any type of like immigrant family, does not want their kids going into anything agriculture related. It's just not culturally acceptable, and there are, exceptions to this, but I think there's a lot of, I think it's complicated, I think I don't have the answer, but yeah, I mean, even Stockbridge is struggling with their
Yes.
enrollment, and it's kind of interesting. It's kind of, in our region, it's kind of hip to be a farmer, like there's a lot of draw for young people today to be farmers. But here's like an outdoor field with, I mean, the opportunities are unbelievable compared to when I was in this industry. It's just, just the types of jobs, So yeah, I don't know. We'll have to put our heads together and try some things. But
Yeah, it is definitely, there's a lot, there is no right answer, I don't think, at this time. And there's a lot of mitigating factors that I think are just a sort of stumbling blocks. So I don't know. I think vocational schools too, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think vocational schools have really tightened up their academic program. So when I first started working for the city, Smith Vocationals, the forestry department actually spent a lot of time out in working throughout the city, planting trees, doing tree trimming, doing a lot of actual work, experience for the students. and
Mhm.
they don't seem to do any of that. And they don't do any of that outside of their campus that I'm aware of,
Yeah,
unless it's
sorry,
no, go ahead.
some of that is newer regulations about who you can take off campus, and like there's all these regulations around taking students off campus, which would we used to be way looser. And also when like MCAS came in, there was rumblings that they were going to do MCAS for vocational schools, and they didn't really do that. But they wanted to standardize the curriculum across the state. So if you were in masonry in the eastern part of the state, you would learn the same types of things in the western part of the state and the central. So there's some good things about that, but there's also some not good things, especially in kind of the green industry because it's so broad. And for example, Smith Vocational had to like petition to be able to continue to be able to teach about um, logging because there's nowhere else in the state of Massachusetts that does it. That it's a legitimate industry. They'll teach chainsaw safety in the eastern part of the state in the realm of arboriculture, but so there's much tighter. They're called competencies. You have this whole list of competencies that you have to meet. So I think that's part of it too. I mean, I've often had this kind of going on down the rabbit hole, but I've often had this kind of dream of having some kind of cooperative uh, internship program with the Northampton High and Northampton DPW. Like there should be like paid some kind of, it would take some doing, but I do think, I just don't think young people really are aware that it's a possibility.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of young people that aren't necessarily college bound and would like to work with their hands, and there's opportunities there. It's a lifestyle. You get decent benefits, and there's a lot in there. And I just don't think. Have you ever met a person that said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna graduate. I really want to work for the DPW." You know what I mean? I don't mean that in a mean way, but I don't mean that in a mean way, but it's
Yeah,
too bad.
there was no checkbox in school about that.
Uh,
No, yeah,
right?
no,
But it's a
there's
legit
no,
career,
yeah,
if you really, you know, have some leadership capability, you can, move up and do things. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm done off my
All,
soapbox.
all good points. All good points. Um, and
Hmm.
I think, it's important. I just want to say, I think it's important that I think the commission sort of just stays informed about these things because I think it does impact the end result, what we sometimes are able to do and not do. Again, this is why this public-private municipal partnership is really so coveted and so successful because we recognize there's deficiencies in certain operational deficiencies. We can't get things done, but we have residents and commissions, and we also have organizations like Tree Northampton and other volunteer groups that want to actually assist us to assist the city to make things happen. So, that's sort of that I guess in essence that sort of takes up a lot of the even the seasonal staff. We used to have a lot of seasonal staff. We don't have seasonal staff like we have in the past. And without the volunteers from Tree Northampton, there'd be no tree planting.
Right.
We'd plant some trees, but so again, it's just I'm very thankful, but I don't. There's a lot of unanswered questions. So, but
Maybe the
thank you.
theme of next year's conference could be how to foster public-private partnerships with like Northampton and Cambridge and Provincetown, coming in and saying how they, well, I don't even know how Tree Northampton started, but how these other ones started and how they linked up with the DPW and how they work together. And I don't know, maybe we could jumpstart it somehow.
I've always really wanted to have a network of volunteer organizations and commissions that sort of have the ability to sort of be able to rely upon each other as a resource and compare notes and have discuss, but DCR keeps track of all the different tree groups and the different commissions, but they do not, they don't list really who they are. So if I wanted to contact people, I'd have to go through DCR.
Mm,
So,
mm.
There was a group that was meeting. I attended a few times. I don't know if they're still active. And mostly we talked about ordinances and where different communities were in terms of protection, because that's what everybody found the most challenging part of um, community work was, getting the policy moving. But
mhm.
I can look back. Would you like me to look for the communities that were involved in that
Sure,
and let you
sure. If you
know?
could. Yeah. Any other comments before we move on? Thank you for Thank you for all the input. So I left on here from last meeting our UFC member vacancy. So I don't know if you have reached out to anyone or have anyone in mind that you would like me to contact. Um, just let Molly's got nothing. Molly's no. Um, I I have a note to reach out to the mayor's office, and I don't know if the mayor's office actually advertises in a sense, like puts out a social media blast, because there are quite a few commission vacancies. Um, but I don't really have anyone in my mind that has come up to me or that is interested that I'm aware of. But I will reach out to the mayor's office and ask them if they are putting out some sort of media blast for these vacant commission seats, commission chairs or positions, excuse me.
What about some of the volunteer tree planters from Tree Northampton? I don't know who they are, but Sue, you know them. Is there anybody you think of that maybe would be interested in being on the commission?
Um, Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I can think about it.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anyone on Tree Northampton or um, that's willing to serve, or if there's another member of the public, but um,
It has
it
to be
would be
somebody who lives in Northampton, right?
yes, yes, yeah. Well, I guess we'll just sort of keep that on the agenda for now until we.
I'll just say, I see Kent in one of the squares. Certainly, Kent, you've been a dedicated and valuable participant all this time, which I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'd be curious if you might want to be a commissioner. I mean, just so we don't, I don't want you to feel invisible there, given how much you've contributed.
Yeah, I've thought about it. Um, I'm I don't know. Honestly, one of my concerns is that as a member of the public, I'm not subject to the open meeting law, and I can actually email all of you folks. Well, I guess you can't email me back, but I and so that's a that's a concern. I've done a little bit of reading about that, and uh, um, I guess I'd be interested in talking more about that aspect of it. And I am interested, actually. So I don't know, maybe I should talk to Rich about it. Um,
You're more than welcome, Ken, to send me an email. We can set up a time to chat.
okay.
Okay.
The other thing, I don't bring any particular expertise about trees. I guess you all know that, but
But you
guess that's
have
not
all
the
the
right
skills,
time.
all the things that you've contributed as far as your map making and data analysis and stuff like that is very valuable.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
How many commissioners are the maximum number?
On our commission,
Hmm.
7.
Okay. Wait, including in addition to you?
Yes.
Hmm.
So there's 6 members. There's 6 members of the public and the tree warden.
Yeah, okay.
Excuse me. So yeah.
Well, that'd be great, Kent, if you would consider that. We'd love to have you.
okay. Well, thanks.
Okay. Uh, spring. The next item on our agenda is spring planting and setback initiative. I don't think Jen, I think you and I need to connect about tree planting, tree procurement.
Yeah.
Um,
Question.
yes, sir.
Just wondering if anybody has reached out to Smith College. I know we had a bunch of properties on the downtown setback planting list that were Smith College, and I think actually Rich, maybe you were Rich Parasotti, you were gonna reach out to them.
Yep, I've got to reach out to Ben Green. That's my first. He's the facilities or the arborist in the facilities department. So that he's my first stop. I can send him an email, and that's on me. Um, and then
So
he
we,
can go ahead.
so we started a new sheet, right?
Yes,
Okay, all right, that's good. I couldn't remember if we accomplished that the last time we met.
we did. We went
Yeah.
down through the old one and make
Oh, yeah.
sure we hadn't
Yep.
missed anything. We went through emails, tried to
Yep.
think of, brainstormed about different possibilities for the spring.
Yep.
And we've
What-
got a lot of pots in the fire already.
We do.
One thing I wanted to say is we got David, Sue, and I got an email from Barbara Devlin about the Northampton Rotary Club and their day of service. It looks like the day of service is the Saturday, the 17th of May.
Yes.
Um, she said the Rotary Board has not yet discussed the day of service and whether they want to organize a tree planting or perform a different service this year, or even if we'll be continuing as a day of service chair, or even if she will be continuing as the day of service chair. But before their next meeting, she wanted to find out if we're interested in working with the Rotary Club again to plant trees this spring. And of course, the answer is yes. I mean, at least for me, I'm sure the rest of you would probably go along with that.
Mhm.
Two thumbs
And
up.
if the May 17th date would work. And then she was also inquiring about the tree planting project at JFK Middle School to see if that would be a place where maybe we could utilize their many hands and help. So
Could
I
that
don't
work for May 17th?
I think if we're to do bare root trees, you'd be cutting it close.
Too late.
It wouldn't be too late. We would just get the delivery later in May, and then, as you know, the last few years, some days May starts off really cool. Other times May is like 90 something degrees for 3 days in a row.
Rich,
So
do you have a ballpark idea of how many, this was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about when we meet, but
yeah.
A ballpark idea of how many potential trees on the other side of the street at St. Mary's?
Oh, on the other underneath the utility wires?
Yeah, or wherever they were going to go.
How many did we plant there this year?
18 on the other side.
I would say probably a minimum of 10. Because
I don't know if that's quite enough for the Rotary, but that would be another possibility because it's kind of
Yeah.
a safe place to work and there's,
Yep. Can park.
Yeah.
The one thing that we need to research is when we talk to Roy at the cemetery foreman is in the section that has the new burials, there's a lot of euonymus
Yes.
in the front there, and I'm not sure, it's an invasive, obviously, but
Yep.
I'm not sure if they want other trees or other plant material in front of that in the right of way.
Mm-hmm.
So we'd have to have that discussion. So that number could go up if they're like, sure, we'd like trees there too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that would be a good place to do a nice underwire planting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd even try to work with them to try to get some setbacks, some larger setbacks in there beyond if they were willing to do it. I just don't know how if they have that area laid out for burials already or not. But that's
Right.
something that you and I can ponder and get back to the
Yep.
with Sue and then get back to the larger commission.
Do we
Mm-hmm.
have any other places that would be a large number and a nice visible community impact?
I mean,
Uh,
Ridgeview.
yeah, if we had to just backing up for a second, our tree removal contract, we had to rebid it, so it's going out to bid in the central register in the next day or two,
Okay.
sorry, the next week or two, and then we'll have a new removal contractor, or this maybe the same one, I don't know. And then we can work on getting those prioritized to have those trees removed and the stumps ground. So maybe that might be a place for the spring on our spring list.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Molly, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It's not about the cemetery, it's about setbacks.
Sure.
What's the status of the letter?
I have not, truthfully, I haven't done anything with the letter. That's on me. So I have two things to do,
Is there
three things.
anything I can do to
No,
facilitate that?
no, I just need to run it up the flagpole
Mm.
and Tree City. Okay.
Just about the May 17th day of
Yeah.
service. So
Yes.
the reason that that's not 100% we're all in is because of the late date. Raises question. It could be too late for a big tree planting.
No, no, it's just that if we wanted to do our best bang for our buck, we would get for a lot, like for JFK, for example, like say we
Yeah.
end up with 30 trees at JFK, we would want to get as many bare root trees as possible because they're easy to handle, easy to distribute, for the Rotary Club. But if they can't move from that date, we can, and it's too hot, we can just have a fallback plan of using grow bags, which we've done in the past. That's the reason why. It's not the fact that the date's late, it's just the date is getting a little late for the plant material that we would prefer to use.
We have to give up on trying to use the cheaper, easier to handle plant material for a big project if we did it on May 17th. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we'd have to spend more and it would be a little more work to do JFK on May 17th. But it sounds like it's not out of the question. So I'm wondering who should reply to Barbara and I'm happy to do it. And what should the content of the reply be?
I mean, from my perspective, I would just say, we are very interested in partnering with the Rotary Club again. And we are, we can work with your May 17 date, but depending upon the planting location and the tree species, it might be if you're willing to move that date towards the either end of April or the beginning of May, that would be even better. Because typically like around May 17th is the Saturday after Mother's Day, and typically around Mother's Day is when you have bud break and you have, leaf out. So we basically, if we had May 17th, David, we'd have to use just all grow bags or B&B, which just cuts down on production and is a little more costly, but it's not,
Yeah.
it's doable. We could do it.
Well, I can see why it'd be more difficult and more expensive. I do recall that Barbara has access to some funding through the Rotary Club. So I mean, if it's not just a matter of expense, but they could probably cover that. or they might be able to cover that.
I mean, I don't, I think as far as the expense goes, like in procuring the trees, I think it's, we could have, we can pay, the city can pay for the tree plantings. It's just that we're not going to get the better bang for our buck. That's all. Because we have to just buy the bigger plant material. So I don't, I mean, I think the Rotary Club's been more than generous to our tree planting program through their donation of trees they've purchased for us in the past and their volunteer efforts. So I'm and David, are we, did Chris Chamberlain work with you to put a new plan together after the last walkabout?
Uh, yeah, but then Jen, Sue, and a few others. We did a walkthrough. We haven't modified since that walkthrough, right, Jen?
Right. And I have the map. David gave me a copy of the map and I have stuff written on it. And that was another thing that I wanted to cover when we met, because I just had some questions about, I just had some questions. We don't have to
Okay.
go into them now, but I
Right.
don't want to spend a lot of time like choosing species and making lists and all that stuff if a certain part is kind of, we think it's in bounds, but now it's not in bounds. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
For various reasons. Yeah.
Okay. Jen, I'm gonna send you a quick email on my availability for next week, and then maybe
Great.
we can try to connect
Perfect. Yep.
after the meeting.
Yep.
So any other, oh, I the seedling sales, I will send you a seedling sales brochure. We're doing things a little differently, so we have seedlings. We reserve 40,000 of them. It's going to be an online ordering system, but that typically you don't interface with that. So, but I have a card. I'll send it out to the commission as well, as an email, so you can see the species and you can decide what, maybe by the next meeting, what seedlings you'd like to have. Or you could just send me all an email would be great. Just don't reply all. And then we can go from there. And the seedling quantity we had last year was 700. Um, Not sure if you want to stick with that 700. Was it a good number? Did we have too many left over?
I wasn't there at the bitter end.
The
Jordan
bitter,
was.
the bitter end, it was bad, huh, Sue?
I was I had some family event I was going to. Something was going on. I had to leave town. But oh yeah, that was a 90th birthday. Um Generally there's a mad run on anything with a pretty flower. At the smaller, the more desirable. And there's always a lot of work pushing out the oaks that we want people to plant, that need a bigger space. Um, I'm more and more interested in the role that conifers can play in our environment. And they seem to move pretty well. So that's sort of a way of getting something out there that has a great eco benefit. I'm rambling a bit here. This is impressionistic.
No, it's all,
But get my drift.
no, I
I
mean, I
mean,
think it's all good. I mean, you have a lot of experience and so do other folks with actually working with residents to figure out what they want.
oh,
Uh,
and like persimmons were incredibly,
yeah,
like that was
Yeah.
wild
yeah.
because it had a fruit and, it was pretty too.
We
Um,
we do have pawpaws this year.
Oh,
People love it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
those
I
would
mean,
be popular.
pawpaws that would be really great. There's more and more written about pawpaws all the time. Um,
It's native.
yeah, it's native, it's
Mm.
exotic, it seems exotic. It's really cool.
I just texted Jordan to ask him if he had an opinion,
Oh,
if it,
thank you,
what, yeah,
Jen.
what was going on.
Yeah, what
So
was left over?
yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay. Thank you. I'll send off that card so you can take a look at it all. Um, so basically, I guess, Jen, you and I are going to meet and talk about plant material. Um, and you also have questions about the JFK planting. Sue,
May I mention to Barbara that a JFK planting is in the works?
sure. I mean, David, are you pretty comfortable with us pulling the trigger on that? Do you think once we
Yeah,
have
yeah, for sure. But I think
and
that after you and Jen meet,
okay,
we might want to put out a revised map with Chris's help, and then
okay,
get final sign off from the principal because it
okay,
has changed a lot since our initial walk around.
okay. That's what I was going to ask you, what you thought we needed to do at the school level.
Yeah, but I mean, I think all the approvals are there. We should just go as hard as
Okay,
we can.
okay, all right.
So is it ready for the final sign off or needs?
We don't have the species. Uh, I had some questions just in general. So we did a
Okay.
good walk around and, I think we will definitely, there's no reason not to have a planting there. There's certain areas of the property that I don't want to spend a ton of time on if it's really,
Right.
you know. So I just have questions
remember.
before I do the deep dive.
Okay.
About how many trees would it be, do you think?
About 60.
60?
I'm kidding. Probably not
No.
that many.
Well, it was a lot though.
I mean,
was
it could
gonna
be 60. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of
but
I
possibilities.
can tell her this would be a very large planting. I want to sell her on moving it to April.
Mhm.
Jen and David, have you thought about putting trees near where people sit, the teams and the spectators watch for the baseball games?
At JFK?
Yeah. That field behind JFK? It's where Little League plays, like that field in the back left, the northwest corner.
By the cemetery?
Not the one that has bleachers. And it has it's near near that pond, the retaining pool pond behind the fence.
Oh, it's the 90-foot diamond, the old 90-foot diamond.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think as far as I knew, at least when my son was growing up, they used that for Little League. And it'd be nice to have shade on the benches where the players sit and the people are sitting.
Mm.
Anyway, just throwing that out there.
They're also, David, you're right. They are going to redo those tennis courts
Tennis
there, the
courts.
basketball court. I saw the funding. I can't remember if it was CPA
CPA,
or
it was CPA funding, I think,
yeah.
in the
So
Gazette.
that's happening. I don't know when it's happening, but we probably there's just a small area of planting that we should probably hold off until they get that squared away. Doesn't mean we can't go back and do it, but
Okay. Any other locations, just before we break, any other larger locations for plantings?
I know there's one that I keep thinking of and then I forget it. I forget to bring it up. What was it? Um,
Third Street potentially
Oh.
has. Oh, go
Mm.
ahead.
It's not a larger planting, it's just one spot in particular that's crying out for a tree. It's that house next to the Pie Bar in Florence.
Mm.
That yellow
Oh.
house to the right of the Pie Bar. There used to be a big tree that got cut down,
Mhm.
and it's just so empty and just bare. If we could do a setback tree there, it would be a great spot. There's no wire there.
Yeah,
That's really
somebody needs to talk to that homeowner because we don't have, I talked to Rich about that. We don't have any right of way there and enough
No,
room.
it
There's
would be a
not enough
setback.
city right of way to put anything in there. But if somebody was willing to have a personal contact with whoever owns that property, that would be great.
I'm trying to see. That's Main Street in Florence. I'm trying to see
Yeah.
what. This is from the survey from. 5.
It should be in that quarter-mile survey, except that maybe back then there was still a tree there.
Yeah, there's very little. Yeah, house number 15. There's very little right away.
Yeah, I
There is,
remember we looked at that.
yeah, yep.
But you're really right, Molly. Boy, there could be, that could be for the pie bar, for that. Yeah, it's like, whoa, out
The
there
big,
now.
empty, sunny space with no wire.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Interesting. This is a survey from, survey was done when? I think it was done in 21. So a lot of the land space in Main Street in Florence is not, that's where there's soil volume, like in front of number 70, which is Valley Medical.
Mm,
No,
mhm.
that's unfortunately not. I mean, there's trees there, but unfortunately that is not our property, the city's property. So it's too bad because there's Florence Center looks great. It looks much better than it has, and the trees we planted are doing well, but it would be nice to actually just increase the canopy cover
Mm-hmm.
if we could do a little more work there. But yes, I agree with you. I think setbacks are the way to go, and that's what we've been talking about. So
I did notice at Smith Voc they started to cut down some of those. I think they're white pines in front of the fence between the split rail fence they put in recently
yeah,
and the sidewalk. I don't know if
yes.
there's right of way there. Because that could, even if they were going to continue to take those down, we could put succession plantings in there. That's a pretty big stretch. Like that could be pretty
It
good.
it is a big stretch, and the right of way there, the back of the sidewalk is pretty much where it's at. There's probably one or maybe 2 feet. But we could actually work with Smith Volk to provide plant material,
Mm-hmm.
um, our choice, and utility wires, I believe, are on the other side. So that would be a great place to plant some fast-growing deciduous or maybe some other coniferous trees
Mm-hmm.
um, that would do well.
And maybe we could involve the arboriculture students there, if there are any.
Yes.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just a reminder that I think Kent's study showed that it's a heat island, Smith Folk.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
one of the
Oh, wow.
few. Isn't that right? It's one of.
Is
Yes, I
Smith
think around
vocational?
Smith Oak and Cooley Dickinson was a heat island because of
Mm,
parking lots in particular, probably.
is Smith Folk owned by the city of Northampton?
It's owned by the trustees of it is a piece of city property, but it's basically deeded and owned and managed by the trustees.
So how does that qualify? Like, could we plant trees elsewhere on that property?
Yes. Yeah, we would just have to have some sort of conversation with the trustees.
Hmm. Maybe we should explore that and see if there's places on the campus there that are crying out for trees.
I have a lot of, I have not a lot, but I have some definite connections there that I could talk to, the principal and the superintendent. I was on a building committee for their new building, and I've been on the advisory board for the horticulture and forestry program for years. So I can try to talk to them about what the possibilities are as long as I have all the information, before I go in that, oh yes, we could plant, because they also they compete in this forestry competition, which includes tree ID competition. So there may be species that they don't have on campus that would be helpful to have on campus.
Hmm.
That would be a big PR thing,
Oh,
that maybe they have 3 or 4 species that are on the list that they don't have. So that could be, and they had to cut down a bunch of them to put up this new building. So, and the building's pretty fast tracked because of the funding sources. So it's going to be they're going to put it up, fairly rapidly. So I have some connections there that I can try to talk to some people.
Sounds good.
I have mentioned in the past of the Veterans Field down there, kind of between South Street and West Street, that there's a baseball field, which as a side is never used, but there's lots of ground there that's open that could be planted. It's in close to the city center, and trees would not interfere with the other activities of the. So.
Yep, it used to be a very active baseball field at one time prior to the skateboard park being built there, and now the field that field doesn't get used much, but there's a lot of places to plant along the periphery of the parking lot, places to plant along the building. So there are a lot of utility, there's a lot of infrastructure in there, believe it or not. But we could definitely plant, we can almost even plant a pocket forest in there, possibly.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would be cool.
Yeah,
On the
Yeah.
right hand side, like towards if you're facing the skate park to the right hand
right.
side,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, the tree warden in Malden has been experimenting with planting pocket forests around the city. Obviously, excuse me, Malden's tree canopy is a little different than ours, but density wise, that is. But very interesting tree species selection. So I'd be actually kind of interested in maybe trying to do that in some park location. Um,
What sort of species?
the he used spruce, one of the Canadian hemlock maybe, or there's I'd have to get the list from him. He and I were just talking about it the other day, but we were at the conference and I've had a lot of conversations with people at the conference, and I was lucky if I remembered people's names. So my apologies. Um, but he did one in the cemetery there, and he does have it's a little different than a Milwaukee forest. It's more of an overstory with understory trees, but it's all tree planting.
Well, aren't the spruces, they live under the canopy for a really long time before they go up. I could be wrong. Like they can live in very dark understory and then before, you know, a
Yeah, I
long
mean
time.
hemlock. Unfortunately, our native understory here is hemlock.
Right.
That is their and the same with the beech trees. Beech is
Mm.
another understory hardwood that is going to be disappearing from our landscape pretty shortly, unfortunately. With the exception of trees that are probably in uh, large areas that are accessible to actually be treated. So
Institutions.
yeah, institutions, places sort of like Namkeg, which is up in the
Yeah.
Berkshires and estates. I hope some of the cemeteries, because we have a beach in one of our cemeteries that is still thriving, so that gets taken care of by Bartlett Tree.
Mm.
But the ones that we had at Bridge Street Cemetery are the European beaches are one's gone, the other one's failing. So, but yeah, that's another. There's going to be different things that are going to these two things are going to disappear. Maybe the hemlocks are not. The hemlocks seem to be doing better, but the beaches are definitely not. My experience this past summer at Martha's Vineyard was sort of precursor as to what to comes for our neck of the woods here, where there's just you in the middle of summer, it looks like it was fall at the vineyard because there was no canopy. But
Is black birch anything that can be planted? Because that's an understory tree I've seen growing abundantly, where the beech isn't growing anymore, and that's what you see is black birch.
I have never planted one, and I don't know. I've never really looked for availability on a list either, but it
I've never
would,
seen them as a street tree, but
yeah,
it's a perfectly good tree.
yep. Yeah, I
Jen's
mean,
nodding her head. What do you know about them, Jen?
I've never seen them on a list either, but that doesn't mean that they won't be on a list because I mean, there's always like a little lag in the nursery industry because, it takes a long time to get something to be of size. But I think there's more of a demand for, these kind of plantings, like these, that's a whole different planting. It's not really a street tree planting, like they can kind of, you're planting them together so they can kind of help each other. It's not as hot. It's not, you don't have salt. It's just a different story, different conditions, growing conditions. So I don't know. I wrote that down. I'll try to
If it's
see.
a kind of a wet site, yellow birch would be the one. And that's a
Yeah,
beautiful tree.
yeah, that's one of my favorites.
yeah, well, the Veterans Field is a wet site.
Yeah,
That's
that
what
could
I
be a good
thought.
place for yellow birch.
Yep. Bald cypress, yellow birch, tupelo.
Mhm.
Mm.
I think that would be an interesting concept.
Sycamore, maybe.
Sycamore. Yep. Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
that's a cool idea that because isn't certain parts of this, or I don't know who's initiating it, but aren't they talking about areas that are mowed now but that aren't really utilized that need to be mowed? So that would be, kind of an example of how to reutilize those areas, and people could still, walk their dogs and picnic or whatever they want to do underneath the trees, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be mowed.
yeah, there is a group of high school students that are interested in planting pollinator plant material on places where there's just utility mowing. Um, and there is a subgroup of NESC that is which I'm part of that is interested in working with them and others who are interested in trying to sort of rewild places that we mow now that are just for utility purposes, that just we mow it because we mow it, because it has to be mowed. Some maintenance has to happen to it, but maybe mowing is not the maintenance that we need to do to it. Maybe it's a rewilding of it, as long as there's no sightline obstructions. So,
Or mow it once a year, like
Yeah.
bush
yes,
hog it
yep.
once a year or whatever. Yeah.
So I will send a message to the Malden tree warden to get a list of the trees for his pocket forest, and then I can forward that to you.
Could you get like the square footage that he's using to, just
Sure.
so I have a picture of that? That'd be
Yep.
great. Like what are the size of his projects? That'd be great.
Okay. All right. Any other question? Perfect. I'll have an answer. Um, Sue, thank you for taking care of that.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome.
Yep. Thank you. Um, any other conversation about the spring planting setback initiative before we maybe talk about something else? No. Okay. I know it's very cold. The ground's frozen. There's no tree planting going on right now. There's nothing. Everything's asleep like it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Except Rich
Um,
Parrish and his crew.
yes. Oh, Rich, I skipped over you. My apologies. I have, um, did I actually have you on the agenda to sort of give us a little update on what you're up to? Because my agenda that I have doesn't have that on here. But
I'd
the
love
new
to hear how it's
Yeah.
going.
Yes, sorry, you are on the agenda. This agenda that I have in front of me is wrong. The agenda that actually got posted is the right one, and you had some time to talk about your activities if you don't mind.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've back in December, volunteers started pruning our young city trees, and we've been out. Oh, there have been maybe about 10 different expeditions out in different locations. I think right now we're up to about 200 trees have been touched, and I think we're many of those prunings have been accompanied by our arborist Jay Gerard. And I think we're in good shape. We've got another couple months to work. So, and just in the last week, we were working there at Main Street and South in front of the Academy of Music and the Old School Commons there, which is a high profile area. A lot of elms there. So somewhere way down the road, there's going to be a lot of tall, beautiful elms overlooking that intersection again. And yeah, there's been about maybe about eight regular volunteers in this. So that's where we're at now. And we'll have more work to do.
That's a lot of trees. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's great work. And it's so important that it's so future oriented. You're making sure these trees are off to a good start, and you're going to save the trees themselves, the shade they're going to make, and save money for taxpayers not having to, deal with poorly formed trees.
Yeah, and I guess just something to think about long term is, with the fact that most of these volunteer pruners are retired folks who, which might not be a long term activity for them, having a forward plan, whether it's the city, having contract work or whatever. That's just something to keep in mind.
I bet that's something that people would be interested in doing if they knew that that was a possibility. I think people would be, I bet you'd get a lot of people who would be interested in training to do that.
Well, that may be that there is some training that's required there to become competent. So that's a consideration.
I'm not sure how we would put the word out.
I mean, those people, do they read the Gazette or not? The younger people.
No, probably not.
Where are they? How do you?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Unless you like reach out through certain groups. I don't know. I don't know what groups, the high school environmental club, but those people, they're all going to go off to college, so that's not so good.
It seems like the ones who they seem to be heavily scheduled, these young people.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
all
lot
of
of
our
activity.
work,
Go ahead, Rick.
yeah,
Sorry.
our work happens almost always during school hours, work hours. That's kind of the reality of it. But yeah, if particularly if putting out the word, yeah, at Smith Voc for forestry students or some folks that are already kind of devoted to the cause, to bring them along as opposed to just a blanket solicitation. Yeah.
I have another idea. I mean, even though the people that you have are retirees, there's always new retirees coming along too, and they have free time. So, maybe like someplace like Lathrop Community, you know, and those people like to be involved in the community and do active things. There may be people, a new crop of retirees who would be interested in learning to do it. And maybe you could do a a training or demonstration, something at one of the Lathrops.
Yeah, that's a possibility, but getting the younger people out there, I think, is what the future really needs.
Yeah, for sure.
Those that are going to live with these trees. So we'll think on those lines.
We have a couple of younger people involved. But you're right, like the school day is when it's currently done. And you move it to Saturday and they still seem to have so many activities.
Mhm.
Like they can make one Saturday, but then because we work hard to cultivate the young people. And we have a couple of very young people who come and bring their friends. Um, I'm blanking on the name of the Jen, who is the guy who was at Habitat and he was at a lot of
Sacco. Sacco.
Sacco, for
Yeah.
instance, and
Yeah.
he's networked with, he has a lot of friends and he brings them and it's
Yeah.
a wonderful thing, but I can't imagine them breaking away from school. And then their Saturdays, they can do one Saturday, but then they can't do the next one.
Right.
And then they
Right.
come back one and then you don't see them a while. They just seem heavily, heavily scheduled.
He
But I
just
don't know
got his Eagle Scout.
how.
Sacco did. Yeah. He was
Oh,
in the newspaper. Yeah.
he's been planting trees with Tree Northampton since he was a young, young child.
His
Hmm.
dad brought him
Father
out.
David
Yeah.
Lively.
Yeah.
And
He's a great young guy, man. He's just a great young guy.
Molly,
Another idea is people who have gardens at either of the community gardens. Those are people who like to be outdoors. They're active, all different ages. Um, you could put up a notice on a bulletin board at either of those two community gardens. That might be a source of people who would like to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
that's a wonderful idea, Molly.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Rich, sorry to put you on the spot, but thank you.
Oh,
Um, is there any other business not anticipated by the chair? None. Wow. No one has anything else they want to add. Okay. Does anyone want to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting? Or do we have
Nope.
we have
wanna
10
sit
minutes.
here.
You
We'll
want
just
to sit
hang
here
out for
for
a
10
while.
minutes in silence, right? With our cameras off?
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second?
second.
All right, we have a second. All in favor, raise their hands. Thank you.